Is 6 p.m. Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. I will call the agenda or the budget work session to order. Roll call shows all are present, council and department heads. So with that, we shall begin 2024 preliminary budget and levy discussion. Darcy, this one's kind of still new to me, and last year you held our hand through this one, so. We want to start with wages, right? I know that was.
Yeah, we can start there,
Okay.
wherever you want to start.
All right. Well, I do think in light of the loss of our officer and the wages discussion, I'd asked everybody to take a look at that, the current wages, varying percentage increases, and kind of come to this meeting with just numbers. And if we all had some in common, then not much for discussion. If we didn't, perhaps there's discussion needed. But I do think that we need to get far more competitive in some of our categories, and I think all need to be recognized as well. That is just my take on that. So, open that for discussion.
I am wondering, Darcy, if I can just pick your brain a little bit about this one that you mailed out yesterday, and how you arrived at these numbers. And please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but according to our step structure, it's approximately a 3% increase between steps?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So and this is me doing the math with a 5% COLA, when I break down the 3% step structure increase and the 5% COLA, not everyone's numbers are uniform, so I'm just wondering kind of how you arrived at this.
So it's a 5% increase to the base pay,
Okay.
unless you guys want to do it differently. That was just kind of a number I started at to give us some kind of budget idea.
Okay.
So 5% on top of the step structure, where will be next year, I guess,
Yeah, it'd be,
after anniversary dates and where all that figures in, correct?
let's see if I can get the step structure in my folder here.
I mean, when you say base pay, that's what you meant.
My base pay, I mean, the minimum pay, the first column. Apparently I didn't print this out. But yeah, it'd be a 5% increase on that first column, and then everyone is 3% up from that.
But these numbers are figuring our actual steps basically, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where we're at on it.
Yeah, it takes into account when you get your step and then,
Okay.
So to clarify, it's literally where Bruce is at right now, and that's the 5% cost living, and the 3% is in there as well. I mean, we identify not only the salary, but the hoop on this page.
it's, I'll steal your sheet. It's 5% on this number.
Got it, okay.
And then, like she said, each step is 3%
Yep.
up from that.
Okay,
So it's not necessarily like this times 5%,
got it. All right.
which, I mean, you can do it that way if you want. That's just how it's set out as of now.
Okay.
So if I understand it, you mentioned Bruce at first, so with the 5% COLA, 74,216,
His estimated wages, yeah.
that's his wages for 24.
Yep. And then it does, the spreadsheet takes into account a certain percentage that's at an extra $1 an hour. I think it's like 2% or something like that, I don't remember offhand.
So I guess I'll just start. I did meet with all of the employees but one over the last couple weeks, just to get their input to see if they were close to what I was thinking. When we talk about this COLA, I'm not sure that I feel like a percentage across the board is the right way, because the people in the lower pay grades are never really getting ahead. So for example, if the increase is a 50-cent increase for the upcoming year, I feel that everyone should have a 50-cent increase versus the COLA percentage. When I look at these numbers, I didn't necessarily, I just looked at the per hour. I didn't look at the increase, the 7%, 10%, 15%. I simply circled where I felt they should be at. Also in talking with their department heads. So for example, for Sarah, I think she should be at the 15%, $20.29. When I look at Brian, I think he should be closer to the 10%, $25.42. And then when I look at the start for a police officer's wage, again in the 10% column at $23.35. One thing I do want to also point out when I was researching some of this, and Darcy actually helped in this matter, when you look at this job value structure from the wage study, it's interesting when you look at these points, how very close they are to go to the next grade. So with that being said, I also had a thought that since they're so close to going to the next pay grade, I believe if I looked at this correctly, if we keep everyone at the same step and bump them up a pay grade, we're at the numbers that I stated.
You are correct.
Did we ever have a follow-up meeting? We didn't, did we, with, is it Paul Ness? Yeah, Mr. Ness? To discuss how he arrived at all these numbers, or?
So you guys opted out and not paying for them?
Okay, that was that first meeting.
Well, it was
Or-
an option
yep.
as part of this proposal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are you done, Brenda?
Yeah, I didn't, just for the sake of conflict of interest, I did not go into any of the department heads. I just wanted to leave that alone.
Okay. I want to go back to Darcy's spreadsheet, the wages and benefits, and Darcy, again, pick your brain a little bit, but to arrive at these numbers, is it the hourly wage times working hours in a year, so 2080? Okay, so you take that, multiply times their current rate of pay, so we can, go each employee, and you come up with their current salary, which is listed here on minus, I believe. No, on yours. So you take the difference of that, and that is their, with the 5% step structure, that equals what the increase in wages are. Does that sound correct?
I'm not sure what.
Oh, okay, so you take their hourly rate times 2080, and you're gonna come to their current salary. And you have 72,449 for the chief of police, public works 74,216, and so on. So if you subtract that, you come up with the difference, so that would be the increase in wages. But when I go across the board and do that valuation for everyone, I'm getting different percents for everyone. It's not the same
Well,
percent.
Because it depends on their step too. It takes into account when their step happens during the year.
Okay,
And then it takes a percentage of their hours, assuming that they're gonna get paid the extra hour shift
Okay.
differential. So like, there's more factors that.
that's what I'm looking for. Okay, all right.
To Brenda's point with the point system, there is a safety net, and part of the push with evaluating our wages and our salaries is a little bit of maybe the point system is out of date. It is not reflective of today's market. It is not reflective of what is the going rate of pay and salary for these positions. And in the wake of the turnover of our police officer, I learned a lot about just how low this number is. It is extremely low. So point system or not, I think it's just courage of the council to say, we're going to act, we're going to vote, and we're going to defend, or agree to disagree or what have you. But the point system, I think, is there as a tiebreaker for those who can't make a decision, is the way I've always looked at those things at times.
So we visited this, we came to a meeting last, was it fall, Brenda? What was your first meeting? I think it was,
January.
okay, January. And this was taken off the agenda 5 minutes before we started the meeting, and I'm just wondering, had we visited this and voted on this, would we be here? So I would like to know why it was removed. Why are we back here again?
We had gotten the information back from Mr. Ness, the board processed it, or the council processed it, agreed that that's what was said, that was comparable. And then as time went on, we also had to set the levy amount in January. So that's why this was removed, because it would have changed all of the math for the levy, if I'm not mistaken. So we procedurally, with the budget in place, with Darcy's leave of absence coming, we simply felt it was best on behalf of the city to roll forward with the numbers that were already presented. Then we got into the review of, are we paying our people enough, which is why we've been revisiting it for the last couple of months. So we would have had to keep this on and make any changes, we would have had to have paused on the levy and reintroduced the levy and our budget 6 months later, and we didn't feel that was in the best interest of the city. So that was why it was. The discussion was pulled for the sake of the levy, and all the math was in place. So we approved the levy, move forward, budget in place, now we can revisit and talk about spending more or less of the same as we move forward into 2024.
Well, to simplify things as far as Ness and the study, he came back, we're in good shape. We actually pay more than the average. In regard to Brian and possibly, well, I'll say, and the new police officer, if we're doing that, I think those two could be bumped. I think as far as just a general COLA increase for Jason, Bruce, and Darcy, I think are fair. The average is 3% in the nation. And, I was thinking like 4.5%, but in regard to Brian and the police officer, and possibly Sarah, I kind of, maybe I shouldn't think that, but it seems like it might be a job that, I don't know, won't be around for, it'll always be here, but as far as staying here. But those three, I think something should be done differently. But the top three, I think the 4.5 is fair from the study we had and paid for. And I wish we had done the follow-up. I didn't realize. I don't know if you can go back, but how much money was that extra?
I don't know offhand.
It's $111 an hour for him to come back and do a follow-up. And I would like to see that. I think a follow-up on that, because I think I've heard department heads question how he arrived with some of those. And
He reached out to like-sized cities and got their information and put it on paper.
well,
His follow-up is to recite that information to us.
I've also heard that he's
Yeah,
customized some of the information in here, and I just think it would be a good idea for him to come back, but that's,
Well, that's
the
what
rest of the
people,
council doesn't feel that way, it's okay.
I feel he should come back, but getting to your point where he takes other cities, that's what people do. I don't care what we're talking about, you compare other cities to kind of get in the ballpark of.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate
What you're
it,
talking
Steve,
about.
that you recognize that some of these categories are just low, regardless of the study. And I'm basing that off the postings and what people are looking for and what they're paying. So it has to make me wonder, is Mr. Ness's information already obsolete when our officer literally rate of pay is at the lowest of the postings? Like, we're not competitive anymore compared to bigger, smaller cities, so. His information for me it's relative, but I go back to the fact that, my opinion is we are just simply not competitive in some categories, and we can hold to our rate of pay, and we can wait and see. But no one's racing for last to cross that finish line in the hiring, in the hiring market.
And Paul Ness's study was based off base pay only, no benefits. So when I break down the math, and it still may be low compared to others, but when I break down the math, I'm looking at police department with the benefits, $52.31 an hour. Public Works, $50.99 an hour. Clerk Treasurer, $44.99 an hour. Police Officer, $31.01 an hour. I haven't figured administrative assistant, and then the maintenance worker, $38.67 an hour. What I would like to see, or what I'm requesting from Darcy for the next meeting, I guess I would like to see the wages and benefits, and this may be addition to Mike's categories too, but I would like to see another one of those based off all of Mike's categories with a 4% COLA. That's what I'm requesting. And if possible, the formula, how you arrive at with those numbers.
I can do it, it's just gonna take a lot of time. So every time I change one number, it's probably like an hour of work.
Yeah, but these are kind of important discussions, I think.
As long as everybody's okay with that.
When would you like to have that next meeting?
Put it on the agenda for August 14th. Would that be possible or not?
Do you wanna have the work session during?
Sure. Whatever. Whatever.
I'm gonna be a little chippy and insist that a decision is made at that meeting. This has gone on a year. It's gone on a year, and we have an active posting currently that we are awaiting for a resume. Mr. Ness's study only shows the base and hourly rates because not everyone takes advantage of the benefit packages that are offered in their cities. So that is why it's skewed information when it comes out that way.
But we sat here in October too, when I look back at the minutes, Mike, and you stated three of us, some of us were new here and we wanted to get the facts.
Mhm.
And we got the facts, and
Yeah.
the fact, this is what the facts state, and now we're arguing that Mr. Ness's study is,
I'm not arguing, it's just, it's relevant, and his study showed that at that time, we were competitive in some of our categories, not all. And I'm simply saying, my personal bias is $21 and change is not enough for a posting of a police officer, no matter what Mr. Ness's study showed.
and you don't feel the benefits are worth anything, or?
I don't think at $21 an hour, we will ever see a resume for that vacancy.
Okay. Okay, well, that's my request, just to see those numbers. I never said that, that our employees don't deserve more. I just want to see the numbers on paper.
Do you want this as like, so each of his numbers is a 5% on each wage instead of just the base? And then so the 4%
4% COLA.
COLA on top of that on just the base or on everybody?
The 4% COLA on, wouldn't it be everybody? Is that how you would
Well,
normally figure
like,
it?
when you change the COLA on the way that our step structure is set up, it just changes the base pay.
Okay, okay.
So do you want me to change the base pay by, say, 9%, or do you want me to change everybody's numbers as is by 5%, 9%? So I know what I'm calculating.
It's your request.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, can you do it separate, so it's the step structure, how much the total with the Mike's numbers, the step structure, and then add the 4% COLA, is that what you're asking?
I'm asking, do you want it on every single number on that spreadsheet, or
On
if I change?
On every employee.
So not just on the step, each employee, the whole 9%, the 5% and the 4%?
Yes. Okay, that's what I need.
Or,
You know, Mike, in all fairness, when you say I want to get chippy, that's not fair. You know, you say you're going to get chippy because you don't agree with it. You got people saying we could say the same thing, we're getting chippy. I think a lot of this is very difficult for me I don't know how to say this, but one, you know, there's a couple people in here that never bellyache. They're very happy. They think things are fair the way things are. And, you know, I think the 4%, I do, like I mentioned, Brian and the police officer, somehow I think that they're underpaid. I think the other,
Steve, I don't disagree. I
fair.
wish we could come to that dollar amount right now and move forward. And if the council said, hey, these two positions require this, and we move forward, but we have a request to now see everyone's math differently again, and that's fine. My struggle with this is again, the city continues to lose in the opportunity of getting an officer. If we could agree just on for the sake of the posting and moving forward, I think that benefits that process. That benefits that single position. I don't disagree that officer position, that vacancy, I would love to see it filled sooner than later. And when you look at the postings, we are not competitive, no matter what the study said. So if it's just that one position, if we could move forward tonight, it would at least be forward progress in a direction. But my comment about being chippy is now we're pausing because the request is all 6 are reevaluated. And I don't necessarily agree that all 6 need to be reevaluated.
Wouldn't that be being fair though? I mean, we're gonna offer a raise to one department and not the other?
I'm afraid it's a one position that is arguably second to last on the list.
and I will say, Pat's been around, I've been around a long time, and we've never had a problem getting applications, never. If we get a police officer, that happens, it's going to happen. You know, there's only so many streets in Motley that you can go up and down. And Cody told me that Steve, you can only go up and down the street so often. So when they get an opportunity to go to the sheriff's department, man, I probably would too. The excitement, bigger area, go for it. That's human nature, in my mind.
Well, I said before, there's a cost to turnover, and the term cost isn't always dollars. It is time, it is resources, it's efficiencies, and
I
other
agree.
things that go with that, so.
I agree with that.
Okay. Well, all right, we will move on to then, I think there was some discussion on the fire department fee schedules with, we have many, we have some in collections.
Yeah, I would like to, pick your brain, I guess.
You want to go right in order and go on the fee schedule?
Well, we could start with that if you want. I was just gonna say that there's a lot of money we're not collecting with fire calls, so I think we might wanna do something to remedy that. And there's a few different options. We could assess the property taxes, but that's not gonna cover everybody because some of them aren't in our county, some of it, we wouldn't be able to do. We could do collections, but then they would collect a percentage of it. I haven't looked too deep into this because it depends on what you guys want to do. Or we use revenue recapture in Staples, so that captures it off of their state tax return, but you have to have a social security number for that. So that's, we paid for a service that was $50 a month to be able to look that up, so then that's having another cost.
I read in your notes someplace that there's a company that does that for us, goes after
If we
past
do,
due accounts.
if we hire a collection agency, yeah.
Pardon?
If we hire a collection agency, yeah, there's many of them.
Is that basically what it is? A collection agency?
Well, they go through whatever they can to try and collect the money. And then they take a percentage of what they collect.
Right.
So Darcy, can I ask you, I did talk with Brad a little bit yesterday on this. Can I ask ask you what the process is after they go on a fire call.
So they give us the form with the information, we fill out the invoice and we send it, and we give them, I want to say it's 60 days. If they don't pay, we send a second notice. If they don't pay after 90 days, we send a third notice. Then after that, we're kind of out of options. And if they provided their insurance information, which most of the time they don't, we send it to the insurance agent too. But that doesn't happen very often.
I thank you for saying that. One thing I did talk to Brad about is that it is important to get the fire report to you when you send out those invoices, because the insurance company needs them on the other side to pay that. So Brad had said that he would start putting that in his paperwork to you.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if it would help if we, and maybe you do, put a letter in there to turn this into your insurance company?
It does, there's a spot that says, if your insurance information was provided, we mailed it to your insurance provider. If not, please forward this on to them. So there's just a little thing about it, but we could add something more.
And the reason I asked that, being in the insurance industry, 95% of all homeowners' policies have $500 built into their policy. So in my eyes, there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting at least $500 from a call. You know, and then we can go from there. So I guess my thought was, what if we, and I could definitely help you do this, Darcy, draft up a letter saying, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
Or provide your insurance information, a simple form, and then they send that back to us, and then we can build an insurance company.
Yeah, if you want to sit down here, that'd be great. Come up with something that'll.
I just think, I mean, I don't know how many calls that $104,000 is, but I mean, if we could have collected $500 off of some of them, that's at least some money. And in talking with Brad also, I don't mean to overstep you.
You're doing great.
When I look at the fire department charges and then looked at that sheet that you provided, thank you for doing all that work. I know it takes tons of time. I think we're pretty much in the parameters we need to be compared to others. The only thing that Brad and I talked about, and he also talked with the fire chief over in Staples, was on the hours after the first hour of fire call, they should all be the same. So the first hour is $500. Every hour thereafter should still be $500 because we're still doing the same work as we did the first hour. And from what Brad found out, Staples is moving towards that as well, the beginning of the year, because they're doing no less work after the first hour.
So basically just $500 for each hour.
$500 an hour, yeah. Because I mean, there are some cities out there that actually charge per truck that goes out.
Yeah, and some charge per employee.
Person,
that goes out. Yeah.
But like Brad said, that, I mean, that would be way too much work. Way too much work. So I think we should start there. And like I said, I'd be more than happy to help you put together a letter. Even try on some of these ones that are past due.
Would you think that we would do the same with the emergency fee or leave the emergency fee at the 400?
It was my understanding from Brad, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jace, that everything else to stay the same.
Yeah, that's what
Because compared to the other cities, we're right in there.
I had a long talk with Brad before we came to the meeting, and he's requested that he has a lot of information and he would like to be here in person to explain a lot of this, probably a lot of what you're talking about now also.
Mhm.
And I said that would totally be fine. I thought,
Yeah, I was just.
Are you here on his behalf?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Brad asked to make money because he had to work. Yeah, no, you covered it all, 'cause yeah, that's what we talked about, is changing the hourly just to go $500 up.
Mhm.
And then the emergency
And
fee
the
stays
emergency,
$400
$400.
and then $200 on it.
Yep.
I think the dollar amount that's outstanding is outstanding, and I think worth pursuing.
And I honestly can't tell you how far back that goes because they've never been written off.
Yeah.
So I would think the first step would be writing off what we can't collect. And then trying to collect on this, it was 20-some thousand that's past due that we can collect on. And then,
I think it's a fair expectation. Yeah. Is there a collection agency that's more specialized in fire department fees than another one? Or-
I just looked up on the league, on the member link, what other people were using and was kind of looking at those. I
Okay.
haven't dug too deep into it, but if that's something you guys want to pursue, I can dig deeper into it.
Did you, when you were looking at that, is it something they do like per client, per person that they have to work on? Is it a monthly fee or you don't? Not
I feel like most of the time they just take a percentage of what they
we're
collect.
collecting?
Yeah.
That wouldn't be that bad either, because at
'Cause
least
if we're not getting it,
getting
right, if we're not getting it
a
anyway,
little of something is better than nothing.
right, that's kind of how I feel too.
Add that to the work session?
What was that?
Just add it to the work session of,
Yeah.
narrowing, I mean, I think the collection agency just to be identified. Inform us which one you think is great and move on.
no.
Is everybody okay with making that fire run fee change, or should I bring that to, I mean, I guess usually we do like the 2024 fee schedule, so for next year, making that change?
Do you want a motion on that? or-
No, I don't think
Yeah, I'm okay with
Just-
that.
So essentially, we would approve the entire fee schedule at one time?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we'll
so this is just
one piece of it?
what I need to change, and then I'll bring it back.
Sure.
And while we're talking about the fee schedule, since we're looking at the THC sale ordinance, we would need to set a fee for that too, for the license fee.
There's not a lot of information out there, you said, to,
I
Oh,
found like 5 people who said how much they charge. Couple of them were $300, one was like 200, one was like 1,000 something. So I don't actually think we'll have anyone apply for this, but
Never say never.
never know.
knock on wood. And it only goes through January 2025 until the OCN is up and running, and they're taking over all the regulations for everything. So I have that ordinance drafted, and that'll be on the next council meeting for you, or at the next work session for you guys to look at. What,
So we can discuss the
You
fee
can
at that
discuss the fee
time, so
then,
we
yep.
can, okay.
yeah. And then I also included this in case there were any other changes you guys thought we might need.
Any changes to the fee schedule? Other than the 500?
I don't see anything that catches my eye.
Preliminary budgets. The proposed budgets are highlighted in yellow. Big yellow column all around.
The LGA was confirmed, so we are getting 20,000 more next year than we did this year. So that's kind of exciting.
Well, in the spirit of all things finance, everything's going up, nothing's going down. That was uniform across the board.
And there are some where I don't give you numbers till the end of the year, so I just kind of throw on a 3% increase on those, just the piece.
I hate to run, but I got another meeting at 7, so would it be possible to cover the fire department?
Yep.
budget?
Yep,
Is that okay?
yep.
After talking to Brad, we're pretty much scraping the bottom as it is, so I don't, he recommended not to make any changes. Leave it as it is. I don't know if anybody had any questions on it or.
Kind of leave it where it is here.
Yeah, on this.
Has the department ever come in over budget? I don't see that.
It's,
Well, actually, in 2022, they
yeah, I was gonna say but we had a lot of maintenance on some trucks that year, I
Sure.
think.
Well, they were under budget because they got that surplus transfer,
Okay.
so they were 51,500 under budget last year.
Are any of our contracts changing with the townships?
Not that I know of,
No, we're not up for that, I think
Sure.
that's probably true.
yeah. Usually a 2 or 3 year contract, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I wanna say
I know
just.
it's not, yeah, you did it like right before I started. right?
Yeah. So, next year or two, I'm imagining they'll be revisiting those.
Okay. So, Darcy, can you explain to me why from, oh, never mind. I see it. I didn't read the top of the column.
spirit of moving forward, I didn't see any of our areas where I felt there was any room for a decrease in budget or reduction. The general fund is healthy enough to assist if indeed any of the departments went over, so I don't think there's the need to reduce individual departments or item-wise. Township-wise, I'm curious, that Oxbow Estates has really grown. If they had a fire call, that's not on the city of Molly, is it? No? Okay. I got asked by somebody in that neighborhood, so.
So who's assessed for that?
I'm not sure, I'd have to check and look.
That's township. That's
Right,
Right,
fine.
but what township is it, I guess is my question?
Great
Do you know?
question. Large.
Large,
Which would be yours?
well,
It's your coverage area.
it's our coverage area, but we're not contracted.
Fuller?
Well, large, yes, without.
If there's a fire over there, you would be paid.
We would be, yes. Yeah,
Good.
you're right.
Good to know. Anything else regarding the departmental itemized proposed budget amounts? Or are they adequate as presented? Hearing no further discussion, we'll go on to the levy comparisons and proposal for 2024.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
You guys. Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Well, I actually did have another thing that I was just gonna mention, I'll bring it to the next council meeting.
Sure.
But part of our budget, there's like a 200 and some % increase on our website cost. So a lot of people are kind of abandoning Shiftlift. It used to be GovOffice, and Catalyst bought it and raised prices significantly. So I got us set on our normal price until, I don't remember, May, June, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And I was looking at other websites, and I found one that's like $605 a year versus this 16 something that it's starting at with Catalyst. So I'll bring some proposals for that. That'll reduce it a little bit.
It's always fun to reacclimate yourself to a new website.
Mhm.
So last year, if I remember right, we held at 4.88, but we also took some money from the general fund to offset to keep it under 5, which is why we're at 4.88, correct? That came, I think Jace was here for one of those, like his last meeting, his last
Yeah, it
recommendation.
was around there, yeah, it was like 10,000, I think we took per month.
And that kept it under 5 and at 4.88, and everyone was happy.
So and this is where we're starting if we just get like a 5% cost of living increase. So playing around with all these numbers, it's gonna go up, you know, with every change. So this is just kind of where I started us.
So correct me if I'm wrong, being the first time doing this, we can set it high and bring it down, but we can't set it low and bring it up.
Correct.
What was the preliminary one set at last year?
Is that 1271, something like that?
Do you remember how much we took to bring it down for the general?
10,000, I think it
10,000.
was, I'm pretty sure.
We borrowed, right?
Well,
Basically.
we took money out of the reserves.
Use their own money to spend down the percentage increase to keep it under 5.
Right.
So we'll know what the reserves is at the next meeting, or do you know approximately where we're at with that? I know we've been asking a lot of questions tonight. I thought it was,
It takes some math, but usually they kind of figure it out at audit time where exactly we are.
okay.
Is it safe to say we would have that same opportunity with 10,000 in reserves?
I would think
I
so.
mean, we're running within budgets now, so.
Yeah, we have more reserves than our policy requires, so we're still okay. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that we're still
Okay.
good.
Well, I don't see any need to go higher than the 5% at this time. Just-
And I think we need to work to see if we can do it without hitting the reserves if we can.
I agree with you.
We tapped the reserves last year, and as I recall, we tapped them the year before.
Mhm.
And if we do it now, I mean, it's starts to get to be a habit.
Yep.
We may be okay now, may be okay next year, but the following year, we tap it, we may not be so okay.
I think that point was brought up when we did it the last time. That's how we this year not do that. Yeah.
I would say that this is probably a low though, after I look at all these wage options, so this is probably a low. So it will go above 5% after I play with these numbers.
Mhm. So you'll come back with the wage, salary increases and the benefits and a different number of what the percentage levy
I'll
increase potentially
review
would be.
everything, yeah. Is there any other things you guys want me to play with or change or anything? Or just playing with those
Just
numbers?
a step ladder for you. That'd be nice.
You know, someday I'll find a camera that I can just use from here.
One with handrails or something, a harness, in case you fall.
And then, did you guys say you don't want to set like a separate work session, you just want to discuss this at the next council meeting?
Mhm.
So I'll put budget and wage discussion on there.
Yep.
We still have until September 29th to set this, so we've got plenty of time.
September what?
29th.
Is there anything else for tonight's meeting?
Nothing right now.
Is there anything else from council? Thank you for the discussions. And the efforts, and the outcomes. So we will motion to adjourn at 6:55.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Awesome.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned 6:55. Motion made by Brenda, second by Nikki. Boom.